Welcome, everyone. Welcome. You've tuned into MIRICRIS, and we're going to talk to my partner here, Lori Dovey, about what she has done recently. This is Valentine's Day, and I'm really big on helping people feel actual love, and I think this is a great celebration of that. But Lori has gone on a wonderful trek to go into Mary Magdalene's it's not was where her bones are, where she lived for 30 years, great caves. I want you to tell us all about it, Lori.
Wow, thank you. Uh, I have the luxury of having San Maxime, San Baume in, I want to say my backyard. It's not my backyard, but it's 2 hours from here by car. And in this church is where Mary Magdalene, um, uh, where she rests. It's her skull. And the energy in this church, I mean, I've been to a lot of churches in France, but this church was amazing. The beauty, the sanctuary that they built for her, from prostitute to saint, just like Joan of Arc, right? You know, from being betrayed by the Roman Catholic Church to a saint. Anyways, it was really, really beautiful. And then I had the luxury of climbing up the Massif, the mountain, to the cave where she spent the last 30 years of her life. And it's a phenomenal story that we actually covered here during Christmas. MIRICRIS and Veronica actually channeled a really important story about Mary. And so I took that story with me on my travels, remembering what we had discussed and talked about. And about how she fled Palestine after Jesus was taken down off the cross, let's say, and healed. He didn't die on the cross, he healed, and he too was on a journey, and actually died in Eastern Europe.
Mm.
Um, so you should listen to our other show during Christmas because it's very detailed and really fascinating. That's what inspired me to go on this trek to go find Mary Magdalene. And I will truly say my heart chakra completely opened as I was climbing the mountain towards the cave.
Mm.
And I felt her presence very, very strongly. It wasn't my mind. She is, her energy is very diffused at this point, but it's very strong. Her frequency is strong. And I left and came down from the mountain. I made some videos, and I'm going to edit in some photos of it that you'll see shortly while I'm talking here. And I've seen a lot of amazing places in all my travels, but this one was 5 stars. It really, her skull inside the church, down in the tomb, in this golden, you know, this golden kind of ambiance that they have her behind was that was incredible. And the photography, when I took photos of her skull, there is looks like a permanent chalk mark, like somebody had drawn, and you saw it, V, the white
Very
line
strong.
right around her skull like this, and it's a white line. And I know cameras are incredibly sensitive to ultraviolet light into frequencies. And I think, I'm not sure what this was about, but it was a demarcation of her face. And it
I
was,
called it to myself, I called it infinite energy.
ah, yeah, it
And
was
if you
really,
think about your aura, my aura, and our essential energy fields and what's going on in you and me,
mhm. Yeah,
and
it
the
was very,
fact that her love still penetrates the atmosphere all around.
absolutely. And I've had the opportunity to have her join my spirit team now. So that it was it was very much an initiation for me. And I highly recommend anybody to go there. It's San Maxime, San Baume. You can Google where is Mary Magdalene rest, where is she laid to rest? And then you can climb the Massif, the mountain, which is just as exciting. It's a huge
I want
group.
to, can I don't want to interrupt you, but I do. I want to ask you, I saw some of the beautiful pictures that you sent and the huge rocks, the caves. Do those rocks to me felt as if they had amazing radiance from themselves as well.
Yeah.
Did you know anything
The
about
cave?
that?
No, I didn't, but I would concur because you feel it when you walk in. You're just
Hmm.
like, you're blown out. It is a huge cave. It is massive.
Massive.
Yeah, I was expecting a really small cave. Like, oh, okay, she lived in this little cave. Oh no, this was like the grand cave, and it even had a downstairs.
Wow.
So, and they have relics. And I went up to where the sign said Mary Magdalene relics, and inside a gold case in glass, and I took photos. It appeared that it was one of her bones because I know a lot of her body was diffused um, after she died, but the skull was very intact. And so it looks to me, and what was weird about the bone, I couldn't figure out what part of the body, but right on the end, it looked like a crystal that it had formulated. The tip of this bone had formulated into a crystal.
Hmm.
It was really trippy.
Hmm.
So, anyways, lovely, lovely experience. And I wanted to say that in closing, that I did some work also on Mary Magdalene's past lives. Um, and what we got to was Mary actually, this is amazing. In two of her past lives, one of them, she was a very devout Buddhist nun, almost on par with Buddha. That's how it was described. Her practice was on par with Buddha. And the other life, you can see it in Wikipedia, she was the second Dalai Lama,
Oh, wow.
which sends chills up my spine. And I know that's true. Um, yeah, she 1400s. Second Dalai Lama was in the 1400s. So, but she has not chosen to return in human form. She's basically radiating energy out there. And yeah, love, absolute love. So happy Valentine's, everybody.
Happy Valentine's. The
Yeah.
subject of love is amazing because it's a whole thing. I remember years ago being told that that's what keeps the planets in orbit and all of this. And for years, I'd go, now, how exactly does that work? And I'm always breaking into, I want to know what love is, that thing. And because it's bigger than a bread box, it's way bigger than anything we can even imagine. And so she's really left an ongoing, she's, left is a silly word, but anyway, she's got an ongoing presence, doesn't she?
Yeah,
So should we
absolutely.
call in Chris? I don't
Yes,
mind
please.
talking about Mary Magdalene either, whatever you want to talk
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, let's call in Chris and talk about love.
Okay. Excuse me. Okay. Okay, so we're calling in Chris and saying, we would love to hear from you. I can feel the presence coming in on this special day of celebrating love. Okay. We are here and we are I'm so pleased to be speaking with you. And your journey has been incredibly, we're calling it performative for you. You've learned a great deal about who you are and the potential of who you are, Lori. Now, what kind of questions do you have today?
Chris, if you could talk a little bit about love. And I know that's a general topic, but I think it serves a couple very important purposes. I mean, for people who are more conscious, I think they really understand that we're here. In the end, it was all about love.
And the hard part about that is realizing that even in Gaza or wherever there's so much murder, love can be growing and proliferating. You understand that? Because love is not contingent upon the physical. The physical is a great way to incorporate new ways of feeling love, and love is a generating, you can even call it a preserving energy. It's a generating energy throughout the universes. And it becomes empowered by your willfulness, by your desires, or it can be destroyed by your desires. Not destroyed. Excuse me, I have to cough. I'm sorry. Love, and love is an infinite possibility which you're directing in many ways by experiencing it, by feeling it incorporate into your own reality and sending it out into the world and fusing with others and their love. And it's very, what we're seeing here, it is so, for example, the war in Gaza, we see here and we speak here of the fact that love is what's going to help people nullify their bloodthirsty attitudes. If they can feel even just shards or smatterings of love, they can dismiss the art of war. You understand that? And they will feel that humility that you see in great teachers and great gurus around the world, the great peace beings. They all have a terrific amount of love in them. And it's an energy, it's an infinite energy, it's an unfolding energy, it's an energy which feels itself and fuels itself and travels around the world and around into the universes. It's one of your greatest gifts as a human being.
Mm. Wow. Yes, and then there's romantic love.
One thing about romantic love is the hormonal connections and so on ignite a feeling about love that most people are unconscious about. So having those hormonal connections ignites in you and the other person this real rush of love, which is in itself just very addictive. And in this case, it's very adhesive. It keeps people together to promote and generate more of it. You understand that? We're speaking of love as a generating force, always a generating force. And people who have a one-on-one love, that's a wonderful thing for couples. But you know, also it can be damaging when it comes to an end and it's not dropped off. You understand that?
Mhm.
But it's a very, very empowering. One of the things that happens in relationships, which you well know, Lori, is that people can interact with one another at very deep, vulnerable levels or cellular levels and find themselves growing one another. And in that, the love becomes much more empowered. You see, so the radiance comes out. You'll find certain couples or certain families, often it's families, that radiate at a much higher level, or some spiritual groupings. We're not guaranteeing that that's a direct source, but when people are ignited over love and not defense and so on, you see that their unification really expands the love.
Mm.
We see it
Yeah.
in colors and forces.
Mhm. Yeah, and then there's unconditional love. And I would say the closest thing I've come to that is uh, with my animal companions.
Yes.
Do you want to speak a little bit about unconditional love?
Well, one of the conditions we place on love, most human beings do, is anger, frustration, defense. So one of the things that we need with love too is to know that you're there to love these animals who unconditionally love you. But
Mhm,
if they've been naughty, if they've been destructive, and so on, you may withhold that feeling of love. You understand how that happens? People
mm,
don't realize they do that. But you have the adherence to them anyway, because people who love animals absolutely love animals, and you know that.
mhm, mhm. The
It,
great
it's
teachers. I used to call one of my border collies my little Buddha.
ah.
Shasta, actually, Shasta Angel. Yeah.
Speak about Shasta a little bit.
Yeah. Well, she was an incredible, talk about animal companion, one on one. She preferred a singular relationship inside my relationship. She very much wanted to relate one on one, not one on two. When there was two of us, two people in the relationship, she chose one. Um, and she was had a very predatory personality because she was also a mix. So she had a bit of the Arctic animal in her. So her
So she
desire,
also had, we see in her a degree of protection.
yes, and she was
And when they
very
want to protect you, they don't want to protect 40 at a time. They want to protect you.
exactly lovely being. Again, absolutely unconditional. The little Buddha.
And for people at home, you might be feeling pressure in your own chest as we speak. For the art of loving has a great deal of physical reflection in your body minds. Many of you will know, this one often says, people say I'm very loving, but if you watch people, you'll notice that they'll keep like a breastplate of self-protection, that kind of thing, that those people can't quite release love yet. They might be en route, but the way the body holds in a defense, a protection, a caution, or whatever, those prevent the love that you are and that everyone has from flowing straight out. So
Mm,
animals have a degree of that too, you know that.
mhm, mhm.
Except they drop it faster than humans, and you know that too.
Right, right. Yeah, and lastly, let's talk about self-love.
Talk about what?
Self-love.
Oh, self-love. Now, there's a very interesting subject. For many people, it's difficult. And one of the reasons is the socialization process. You probably don't need us to explain all this, but the socialization process very carefully tells you what you've done wrong. And if you're really, like many people are born, well, let's back up a little. People are born with a kind of love. Some people are born with an incredible amount of love available, ready, teddy, to go. And it can get daunted by you make mistakes and you crush yourself under shame and so on and so forth. But the love is still there. And self love is a way of recultivating it, bringing it forward again and again. Some people don't have very much love. The explanation for that is many lifetimes. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where it came from, but it can be cajoled and brought forward as well. And that's where people, animals, and people who really believe in love as a firm force can bring it out in other people that are very negative and will put you off because of their attitudes and fears. Mostly it's fears that keep them crunched. So, talking about self love, it's very interesting, but it might take a bit of cultivating, you see?
Mhm,
Takes humor, cultivation, and self acceptance in a way that is seemingly impossible for certain
mhm,
hurt people, you see. But again, saying hurt, we say those people might have come through several lifetimes where they've been thwarted, damaged, punished, murdered. There are many, many ways to develop a long-term unfeelingness about love in the heart and soul of themselves. So self-love is hard won. It needs the kind of, you need to focus on it. You need to enjoy it. You need to praise yourself. You need to have others. This is quite crucial, actually, Lori. In some of these cases, it takes others coming in and absolutely reassuring you that you are a direct reflection of God, you see?
Mhm.
And over, that has to be done. Self-love is difficult, but it's wonderful. It's the best thing in the world.
Yeah, I think the way I perceive self-love is it's one of the final stages in the spiritual growth of a person. Is that is one of the things that you're trying to absolutely obtain uh, and to go forward with, because then you have so much more to give.
That's a
And
possibility, but it might be undulating in phases. You understand that?
yes, but there is a time, and I'll speak from my own experience. Uh, when you come to it, you will know it. When you
Oh,
come,
it's different. If we're speaking about you and this one, that's different than this generalization we were speaking about with many people around the world.
right, but I do sense that it is one
Crucial.
of the frontiers that you need to strive for in your sexual, wow, in your spiritual. Wow, I have to slip of the tongue there, huh?
Well, that was a good Freudian slip because the sexual can often interact with the need for self-love, can't it?
Absolutely. And
It's not just a
yeah,
need.
and
Forgive
I
me for saying it that way.
and but I do sense from my own spiritual development that it has been one of the final frontiers for my ascension.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
Because
there's
it
not much to say about that. That's wonderful.
because it allows one to be in service more freely, less conditionally to those people in our life
Or
because
you
we're
could say, ignore that bell, please.
go ahead. Don't hear a bell.
And you're right. To be in service, yes, it's very important.
Mhm.
Um, keep talking. You have something.
Okay. Well, it's an interesting quest. To be in service is um, I'm feeling like maybe we should hold on that topic, to be in service, because that's a big one.
Mhm.
And
It
that
is.
has, and maybe we do that next week. And we move into the politic now, if that's
Oh, I'm
okay.
ready for that.
Anything else, Mary Chris, before we move
No, I
into it?
just want to say one thing, which is that there is no finite answer on that subject. Not the politics, but the love. Love can't be capped off. You notice with Mary Magdalene, her love is still there.
Yes, and my final word about that, I believe she was on par with Jesus in terms of his evolution. And
Hmm.
that's why they connected so deeply.
I agree.
Is they really understood each other.
And so the cautions and the judgments and all of those things are just irrelevant in that kind of association, aren't they?
Hmm,
Because there's always tremendous progress. When you get to what you're calling self-love, there's tremendous progress ahead of you as well.
right. I did want to ask something, Mary Chris.
And
It's
we
just
want to say that's the wonderful thing about being a human being. It is an infinite process. So now you can say it.
Um, we were talking about animals, and I'm using dogs in particular because they are a particular um, selfless being that express a selfless love and
And
unconditional.
often of service.
Yes, exactly. But my question is, do babies, when babies are born from the womb, do they have that same innate thing? And my sense is no.
You know a lot about the soul's journey, and it depends where have they been and where are they headed. You see?
Right.
But we will say this, that more proportionally speaking, more babies are grown or born these days with a quest for infinite love, a quest for, complete love. More and more, because the thing we haven't discussed is that if you look at humanity, it has been evolving, and you could say rather slowly at times, but it has been evolving through the eons. And
Right.
we're having a whole different category of humans being born these days. You understand that? So we'll
Mm.
leave that for, that would be a wonderful show to do.
The difference between babies and puppies.
Yes, well, exactly. And there's, what do they have? They're here to just light you up. They're here to look after you, right?
Hmm. Okay, so I'm going to move to the politic now. Speaking of children, and for those of you watching, I think you know what I'm going to bring up with MIRICRIS right now. Press conference between Elon Musk and Donald Trump with the 4-year-old ex child of Elon's present at this press conference. Um, the child leans while Elon's talking, the child leans into Donald Trump and tells him, "You're not president." And it's heard on the microphone. I heard it with my own ears.
We
Then
laugh.
he wipes a booger on his desk. And then Elon continues talking and then Trump talks, goes back to Elon. And while Elon's talking again, this little boy turns to Trump and says, "Shut the fuck up." And it was so shocking because children they don't know this stuff. They've learned it somewhere. What is going on? I want to raise a deeper thing here with Elon. Elon has held custody of this child from his former girlfriend Grimes.
Hmm.
And she's been in a major custody battle with him and has put most of her money into it and still does not have shared custody, doesn't have custody. And I found out today that Grimes, when Elon and her were no longer together, Grimes went and started dating Manning. Remember Manning in the military who was
Oh,
busted
right.
for giving
Yes.
the secrets, the transgender
Hmm.
uh, uh, woman? Well, she was dating her. Then we also know Elon's daughter, Vivian, is now transgender and he won't speak to her. So, what? This guy's a piece of work. The more I realize Elon's backstory, he is a frigging piece of work.
But could we say something? I want to interrupt you right now,
Yeah.
which is your society, which is in a state of evolution. Many of the children, and even we'll just talk of the Western culture, have been raised in an aura of or an atmosphere of judgments, 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 thwarting, judgment, thwarting. A lot of people have been raised that way and struggle to do self-love, struggle to do sorting out their neuroses, et cetera, et cetera. That's all that's happening with this little boy.
Well, where did this little boy learn to say these things? And it was from Elon,
Yes,
right?
from
You're
any.
not president. Shut the F up. These are things this little boy learned from Elon speaking. Is that
We'll
right?
say something that seems a little bit superficial, but I think you'll appreciate it, which is this little boy's mother needs to change her name. She needs to change that name of hers, which is, if you look at it vibrationally and so on, it's a very, very thwarting name for her. Very, very crippling.
Grimes.
Mhm.
Grimes. Um, so the question, that's the statement I wanted to make about in the news about this
Mhm.
demonic child, as I'm calling this little boy, because he was the one doing the Nazi salutes
Mhm.
when Elon was doing them at the inauguration.
But when you're four, you often imitate your parents, don't you?
Exactly. So what's going on with Elon here? Tell what, okay, we're using the child as the uh,
Evidence of such.
disseminator of information.
Mhm.
These are things that Elon has said, correct? You're not
Mhm.
president
Oh,
and
yes.
shut the F up.
Not just Elon, but people around. It's just how people talk around him. And his wife, Elon's, the boy's mother, there's a hatred between him and Grimes. You understand that?
Mhm.
And that also impacts the child. So the child has a lot of karmic restrictions and so on, which we've already implied when we're talking about love. You see? And he's a thumbnail sketch of how we distort the consciousness in our societies. It's really terrible.
So has Elon said these things to Trump to his face?
Yes.
Oh, wow. So let's explore this. So Trump is under Elon's thumb.
Yes, very much so.
Can't get rid of him, or can he?
Mhm. But he's also under Putin's thumb. You know this. Trump
Mhm.
is.
Right.
So
But can
he's kind of hoisted on these expectational petards. You understand? He's held in place by his lust for both the money and the stature, the positioning, for which he puts up with more judgment than he would normally if he were in his own
abuse? How
light.
about
Yeah,
abuse?
abuse
I
is
think
good.
this man is actually receiving abuse, verbal
Yes.
abuse.
Hmm.
I just have that feeling. Um,
We would say it's unfortunate, but we would say another thing, which is, and you know this one, it's a caricature of what is wrong with humanity right now. We teach the little ones hatred. We pass on hatred. We use our media to do that. And we complain about the hatred, you see? But we're
mhm.
driving it, we're building it, we're sending it out there. And it's very, very, very sad for this little boy who's being confined in all these incredible the influencers around him are more like wires that are all tied around him. He's in this incredible. You ever seen the inside of a golf ball, which has got all these little things wound around
Right.
the core? He's got that whole thing around him, and he's 4 years old.
Okay. So
He'll
does
be a bitter
I'm gonna
young man. Hmm.
okay, I'm gonna jump over to this then. Does Trump um want to get rid of Elon?
Uh, yes, no, he doesn't want to because he wants the bounty. He
Right.
wants to because he doesn't like to be denigrated or told what to do. It's the same reason he hangs on to Putin and
Okay.
Orban.
That's right, Orban.
And he lies and schmoozes. You know what the word schmooze means? You know where um, what the vernacular is sucking up to people. In a way, Trump does that to keep his position with certain people who are in power. You understand that?
So will there be a splitting apart of Trump and Elon?
Yes, but at this point, we're not seeing it happening yet because Trump hasn't gotten his hands on enough power yet. Do you understand that? He's manipulating and playing it inch by inch. And you know what? So is Elon.
Oh, I get that. They're bros completely in
And but
this
they're not the
psychotic
same in
game
the
with
sense
each
that they're
other.
not the same brain. What I mean is
Right.
Elon is much more conniving
Mm-hmm.
and brilliant. And Trump is more dramatic and manipulative in that way. You see how different it is?
Mm-hmm.
So
So,
sometimes they hate each other, but they're still glued to the brass ring.
right. So who will turn against Elon uh, as Trump grows weaker? Who will go up against Elon?
Um, oh, interesting. There are several, I'm not sure their names, Lori, but there are several watching and seeing the signs and wanting to jump in there. And somebody is trying to cultivate Putin. If you watch that little part of it, trying to cultivate Putin, you'll see that that's someone who wants to pull the power that Trump is loosening. He's not loosening the reins, so to speak. His body is loosening, you see, and that there's someone who's going to start cultivating Putin with a great deal of vigorousness. And you'll say to yourself, oh my goodness, this must be where the weakness begins to pull. And then we see Elon getting weak in a different way. We suggest that he's getting more mentally, Trump is as well, but it's a different way. He's getting more mentally distressed, is the way to put it. You see?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he's getting angry. Sometimes his anger is quite impossible, which means he loses a lot of steps doing that. Do you understand that?
Right.
Hmm. So
And
you're going to watch a very dynamic dissemblement, and it will include people are likening America to North, uh, what's his name, Kim Jong-un, right?
oh yeah, North
And
Korea.
you're going to see more and more of that likeness. But we say to you that that's really a herald of a lot of it coming apart. Don't get stuck on who's attached to who.
Mm-hmm.
Get more fascinated by the dynamics between them and how it's going to help dissemble that incredible network that is going on around the world, which we've spoken of a number of ways, you know.
Right.
Elon's very he's very dangerous.
Yes. He just posted Judge McConnell's daughter's photo, address, and signed tax return. And
Mitch McConnell or Judge
no,
McConnell?
no, Judge McConnell,
Okay.
who's freezing, who hasn't allowed, who's basically, okay, there's 40 court cases right now. Judge McConnell is the judge who has said you cannot freeze federal workers' salaries, basically.
Thank you, God.
But so what did Elon do in retaliation on X? He posts Judge McConnell's daughter's address, photo, and signed tax return. Signed tax return
Now that is not, that's evil, actually.
in retaliation. So we still, do you still see, because we have to check in every week on this because I know the
This
energy.
seems to be a madness in Elon. You understand that? He is crazy
Yes.
because the hue and cry coming back at him is going to come from both sides.
Okay.
There's a
We,
caution because people are afraid of being caught by his net. You understand?
right. But let's do the dissemble because we have to look at it every week with Elon.
You're right.
Is he, because it's a dynamic changing energy. So is he going down on a mental thing like we had seen before, or is there still another way he's going down?
We're seeing it's mental right now. He gets headaches. Have you heard that?
No, not yet.
We're seeing that it's going to get worse, meaning the kind of egregious dominance that he's using is going to get even worse. But the reaction to him is getting stronger,
Right.
meaning there are people surrounding him that you don't even know about. And that starts to shake him up in a big way.
And where does what happens?
Well, it looks like he comes where we keep saying this, and we need to check more regularly, but it appears that he's coming undone and can't make the decisions and he can't hold the focus anymore. And you'll see that.
And where does he go physically?
Uh, we see that he goes to jail.
Yeah.
We want that for him, but you understand that he can barely handle it, which will take him down further.
Okay. He's such a
He
danger.
cannot believe that they would do that to him.
Right. He's very arrogant.
Oh, my goodness.
He's the worst kind of arrogance there is.
Yes, and that kind of person has, and this is back to our earlier talk about love, that kind of person has no consciousness or no conscience, you see?
Mm.
He
And
doesn't feel badly about what he does.
just so we can all get some relief, how long will it be before he's brought up on charges and it goes
So
to
far, it looks like April, but you know that it's hard to
wow.
gather the enough energy to know the time.
Yes.
It
And the information,
appears that April.
yeah. And
It'll
gather
be
it.
right after Mr. Trump starts to really come down inside of himself. Right after that, Elon goes down.
Wow. Wow. And I know you said before that JD Vance is not in the picture
He's
at
not.
that time.
Hmm. Partly we're seeing, and this isn't a promise, but we wish it were, okay? That there's something happening amongst people where it's not vigilante, but it's like people want to rally and really come at them in a different way. They're not quite sure how it will work without just getting caught in the noose. You know how the roadrunner gets his foot in a
Hmm.
tourniquet or in a noose or something.
Hmm.
They're being very cautious because they don't want anything that they're doing to not work. So
Yeah.
there's a slow surrounding of these power moguls. And there's
Hmm.
some protection of, um, you know how they're making rules and they're making caveats that are preventing changes and so on. There's some protection on what it is they're trying to do and what they're trying to write. We
Mm.
see that Kamala is able to do more than it has appeared for a while. And she's not alone. There are a number of them that are amassing responses, and there are many people in America and around, and Lori, all around the world
World.
that want this to be stopped.
Yeah, I feel that very strongly.
So feel in your body mind. Um, Yes, feel in your body mind that incredible pulling together of minds around the world. We suggested before that Mr. Trump has some mind control machinery in Mar-a-Lago, which made a difference with Mr. Fetterman. But we're saying that using mind control is what, when people gather and their intentions are really strong, that's a different kind of mind control, isn't it?
Mhm.
It's like bring your minds together and over again, reiterate the intention of empowering people on the subtle levels of the Constitution, if you want.
Mhm.
Subtle
Mhm.
levels. That's quality of life for humans, the respect for animal, the whole thing, you know?
Mhm.
Do you understand? And then when enough people, because we're feeling and seeing here right now that many people are feeling a little powerless, but they're rising up. Many people are rising up, and it won't be a bloody bath. It won't be like that. But there are many people rising, and it will be a rather a kind of a blessed event of consciousness. Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Wow.
And people don't have to be incredibly conscious to want home and family and country and food and
Well,
protection.
yes, Congress has already received millions of calls. That's already been reported. Millions of
How
calls.
about billions? Let's do billions.
Sure. But I'm encouraged that it's millions
Yes. Oh,
and
for sure.
not 20,000.
Yeah.
Millions of calls, and there's still protests being organized. There's going to be boycotts on
Mhm.
consumer items, particular items.
Mhm.
Tesla is plummeting
Is plummeting.
in sales, and
American products are not selling in Canada.
that's right. And Canada dumped the Starlink contract,
Isn't that great?
100 million, $100 million. So,
And something interesting that I heard the Canadians talking, and they say it's not about money for us, it's about our quality of life and our people.
yeah,
And my mind went, America, you need to hear that,
sure.
you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, absolutely.
I think the Mexicans are like that as well.
Hmm.
They've had their own battles. We know that. Won't go into that right now. But you're
Okay.
doing good work, Lori.
Yes, I think doing these videos and the calls and the letters. I wrote a letter to Fetterman. I was so pissed off. And unfortunately, we're getting kind of a sweep on the congressional appointees. RFK is now in, and
How unfortunate, but it won't last long.
no, and Tulsi Gabbard, she's in. Uh, and I guess Cash Patel. Let's ask Mayor Chris. Will Cash Patel get in? I don't think there's been a decision yet on that, has there?
We're seeing that he probably will,
Yeah.
but we're seeing also that with RFK, it was several of them. There are a number of people building, again, we're calling it kind of an undercurrent resistance line.
Yes.
People do not want Cash Patel. There are some people that just want America to be powerful again, and they don't give, they don't care how it's going to
Right.
happen.
Right.
And so you have to be aware of those people. Tulsi Gabbard, the evidence that these people are involved with the Russians is blatant.
Yeah.
But your problem is partly that Mr. Trump is also Russian bound.
Right.
So,
But the Republicans don't care.
yeah, they don't mind at all.
They're as much in cahoots on this whole thing. They're as much guilty, the Republicans are, as Elon and Trump are.
Hmm.
Republicans should be ashamed of themselves. You know, Mitch McConnell has now descended. He has voted with the Democrats on a number of stopping
Good.
the appointees, but the Democrats, are in the minority. So that brings us to the special elections in Florida and New York in April and June. And if the Dems can win, we can take the House again. It's four.
Something's happening in March as well, Lori. We're not sure what it is, but there's some kind of kerfuffle that is going to create some kind of voting in March, and it will be an emergency situation.
Oh,
Mm. Pray, 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 pray. Remember that your prayers and your love make a huge difference.
okay, Mayor Chris, thank you.
Uh,
Ah,
we're working with you as well, and mostly not just in a political sense, but we see that the world is pushing for consciousness to rise, and that's our subject. That's what we're here
mhm,
for.
right.
In the days of Mary Magdalene being alive and many of the other great masters that you've all studied and so on, there was very little mass consciousness. You
Very,
understand that?
very interesting.
Yes, our
That's
prayer
profound. That's profound.
and our prayers are that humans are letting it come through them because it's in people. They just have to allow it to come forward and be the strength that they are.
So we're building our light. We're
Building your light.
evolving as a species into mass consciousness.
Yes.
And that's incredible. Wow, what a gift.
And you have to be a participant, you see.
Yeah.
Mass consciousness is a democracy, isn't it?
Mhm.
That's a cheeky
Cool.
way of putting it because the democracy is loaded with all kinds of ego stuff. We're not meaning to leave it in that vat.
Right. All right, Mayor Chris, thank you so much. We're going to call it a good night here from.
Well, many, many blessings for the work you're doing and for the trek you made. And we're eager to speak with everyone soon.